Dave Pearson smiled as he looked out the door to his office. It was late Friday evening, and the happy Pearson Systems work family was bustling about in anticipation of the weekend. He was proud of all 33 of his employees at his company in suburban Philadelphia. His wife, Linda, was also among those present that day. She performed accounting duties, mostly working from home, but often came in on Fridays to hand out paychecks and keep in touch with the team. The company's chief salesman, Dave's brother Rich, was also there as his work week ended. Dave was proud of the way his family and employees worked together seamlessly to make his company a well-oiled machine. Indeed, Dave was happy. It's a shame that this feeling won't last long. Dave's office manager, Hannah Kemp, interrupted his pleasant thoughts by knocking on the door. "Boss, I'm finishing up and heading home. I was wondering if I could bring anything for tomorrow's party." "Hey, Hannah, who is this boss guy? You're the one who really runs the show here." "That's exactly it. Well, can I bring you anything?" "I think Linda is in control." Seeing his wife nearby, Dave called out to her loudly, "Honey, do you have a minute?" Pretending to look around the room with a surprised smile, Linda answered with irony, "Honey? Oh, are you talking about me? Who else could I have in mind? Smart girl." The three laughed as Linda joined them. Dave took the opportunity to maintain a light atmosphere. "Hannah and I were just discussing who's really the boss here." "Everyone knows Hannah runs the show here," Linda said with a grin. "And," Hannah added, "everyone knows Linda wears the pants at home. Right, Dave?" I refuse to answer because I'm sure I'll get into trouble. "Smart move, darling. Besides, Hannah, our relationship is best when neither of us has pants." "Wow, guys, too much," Linda replied. "The way you walk holding hands, kissing and making eyes at each other is enough." Linda blushed when Dave answered, "I'm proud that we're still on our honeymoon, even though we've been married for 17 years. I'm truly lucky in love." Linda's eyes welled up with tears and her lips twitched with emotion as a sweet, crooked smile appeared on her face. "Isn't he cute?" "Yes, honey," Hannah agreed. "Before you two decide to go private, I just wanted to ask if I could bring something tomorrow." "Oh," Linda came out of her love fog. "Thank you for the offer, but we have everything under control. Do we know exactly how many company employees there will be tomorrow?" Hannah looked at the tablet she was holding. "Looks like 28 employees, 26 their significant other, and 31 children." Linda did some quick math in her head. "Okay, that's 85 plus our family. The catering company prepares food for 120, so there's enough for everyone. Speaking of significant others, Miss Hannah, are you bringing anyone?" Hannah obviously forced herself to smile before answering. "No, I am alone." "Come on, girl. You're young and very attractive. We have a friend from church who would be a great match for you." "Linda, don't start with me, okay?" Linda was about to answer when Dave interrupted her. "Sweetheart, leave Hannah alone. She's a grown girl." "I know, but..." "Linda," Dave's face conveyed a stronger message than his words. "Okay, sorry, Hannah. You know it's for love, right?" "Yes, I know," she replied. Hannah had so much more that she wanted to say, but those secret words remained unspoken. Walking hand in hand through the parking lot, Dave and Linda looked forward to one of their favorite traditions and the busy weekend that awaited them. Dave asked the obvious question. "Did you place your order?" "Yes, of course. Mongolian beef for you, General Chicken for Ellie, and I'll try the Happy Family C-set." "Great. I could have guessed Ellie's order. She always takes it. Look at you. I wouldn't be surprised if you turned into a Mongol." "Very funny. Did you order different appetizers?" "Certainly." They got into the car and drove home. A few minutes later, Linda noticed that her usually talkative husband suddenly fell silent and began to look into the distance. "Is something wrong, darling?" He came out of his thoughts with difficulty. Um, ah, well, not really. What's happened, Dave? Come on, tell me. We share everything with each other, don't we? Of course, it's just, you're scaring me. Oh, he laughed. It's just, well, a little earlier I was thinking about how wonderful everything is in my life, and I started thinking about tonight. You mean our regular Chinese movie night? Yes, Friday nights are the pinnacle of my week with my favorite food. Then we get cozy with my two favorite girls on the couch watching a movie. Ellie is already 15 and growing up so fast that soon it will be just the two of us as a little family. What do you mean, just the two of us? She'll still be our little girl. She'll always be our sweet daughter, that's true. But little, in a year or two, our Friday nights will turn into her dates. Then college, and soon she'll be living on her own, and it'll just be the two of us. It's the curse of parenthood, darling. Children grow up. I know, but I don't have to like it. Well, look at it this way. When it's just the two of us left, it could be a naked Chinese movie night. Ooh, I didn't think about that. They drove home with wide smiles. Undoubtedly, the evening promised to be stormy and crazy. Dave and Linda walked through the front door to the joyful scream of Ellie, who threw herself at her father with a bear hug. Their dog Banjo barked happily in excitement before running to inspect the bags of food that had fallen to the floor due to Ellie's heated encounter. I did it. I did it. Dad, my geometry grade is excellent. I told you everything would be fine, didn't I? I didn't believe you, but you were right. She kissed his cheek as her mother looked at them proudly. Linda knew that Ellie was Daddy's girl, and she agreed with that. She remembered being just as close to her late father and would never deny them such a blessing in life. The dinner passed in an atmosphere of energetic conversation, waving of chopsticks and delight in every bite. Once they were finished and the table was cleared, they headed into the living room for the better part of Dave's week. Dave asked, "Whose turn is it to choose the movie for today?" "Mine," Ellie answered. "I chose the old comedy you were talking about, but I haven't seen it yet." Dave laughed. "Old? What, 2015? I thought you'd pick the next John Wick movie after my pick last week." "Oh, God, no," exclaimed Linda. "No mass murder movies today." Dave didn't back down. "Ellie, how many were there last week?" Dad, I stopped counting after 100. So, this week we're watching Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Is that okay?" They sat on the couch, Dave in the middle, and the two women he loved leaned on his shoulders. The word woman stuck in his head. Ellie was only 15, but she was already a young woman. He found it difficult to enjoy the evening, but the thought of a future without her under the same roof constantly distracted him. This was what he feared more than anything in the world. Dave's brother Rich and his wife Sonia arrived early the next morning to help prepare for the big meeting. Their large pool area had a lot of work to do, and everything needed cleaning and preparation. Sonia and Ellie cleaned the inside while Linda, Rich, and Dave worked in the outside area. Dave was clearing leaves from the pool when he felt a familiar tingling sensation and decided it was time to call it a day. "Honey, I need to go inside for a minute." "Okay," she shouted. "Just don't stink up the guest toilet. Ellie just cleaned it, and she'll be horrified." Dave entered the house and was about to go up to the master bedroom, but changed his mind. The basement had its own toilet, and there was no risk of contaminating public areas with its legendary smell. He entered the small room, and the smell of dampness from the basement assaulted his nostrils. He opened a small, tall window for ventilation. He had a habit of remaining in the dark during his morning routine, as he liked to close his eyes and let his thoughts wander wherever they wanted. Thus, his morning ritual often took 15 minutes or more. I sat down to go about my business, closed my eyes, and felt the fresh smells of spring fill the room. He began to let his thoughts wander when he heard rustling and whispering voices through the window. The window was on the side of the house, and the plantings hid it from view. He strained his ears to hear what was happening. "Rich, Dave might catch us." Dave immediately recognized Linda's voice, and something began to bubble in his stomach. "No, he won't catch him. He's here for at least 10 minutes. What is urgent?" "Listen, the kids brought home forms from school asking for permission to take DNA samples from them. Did Ellie's school do that too?" "No, I don't know." "Oh, damn." "Yes, that's it. Have you found out if I'm Ellie's father?" Dave felt as if a cannonball had hit his stomach. He held back the urge to gag and tried not to react. "No, I was really hoping to avoid this. I'll check with the school to see if they do anything with DNA. It's a different county, so maybe we're safe." "I hope so. Hey, we haven't met in a while. How about you? Don't you think we should stop? It's too risky. We've been running away from everything for years. Besides, I don't want to stop. And I'm sure you don't want Dave to find out either, do you? Would you really tell him? It would destroy you too. Do you want to take a chance? I can always start over somewhere else. You're a real bastard, you know." "Yes, so what? Pick a day this week." "Damn you, yes." "Okay." Dave and Ellie spend every Tuesday night together. They don't get home until 10 p.m. How about meeting at Valley View at 6 p.m.? "Okay, agreed. Let's go back. Let me know what the school says." After they left, Dave stood up and closed the window just in time to throw up in the toilet. He managed to sit up before he lost consciousness as silent tears fell from his eyes. He quietly repeated to himself, "What should I do? What should I do?" His thoughts were spinning in all directions. He had never experienced such pain. His chest was constricting. It felt like his insides were being torn out. "Oh, God, am I having a heart attack?" He quickly dismissed the thought, but the pain did not subside. After a few minutes, he felt a little stronger. He tried to straighten himself out as best he could, fighting the terrible thoughts that continued to swirl through his head. "Ellie? Oh, God, Ellie. Is she mine?" The horror of this thought began to cause panic until he realized that she was his daughter, no matter who her father was. But if the evidence points to Rich as the father, his brother will feel pain until he regrets being born at all. "Who is Linda? I can't believe it." He tried to pull himself together. He needed time to think about the situation. He knew he couldn't face them now. 100 people were coming soon, and he needed to find a way to act normal. The problem is that he was a terrible actor and too transparent in his thoughts. After he had been in the basement for almost 20 minutes, he realized that he had to come out of hiding. "What should I do?" His mind refused to calm down. "Ice," he whispered out loud to no one. He realized that leaving the house to get ice would give him precious time to pull himself together. He splashed his face with water and tried to hide any signs of his distress, then went upstairs to begin his serious attempt at an Emmy-worthy performance. He saw Sonia when he came out of the basement. "Sonia, if you see Linda, tell her I'm running out to get some ice." "Of course," she answered cheerfully, not suspecting that her world would also soon collapse. Dave parked in front of the store and decided to walk around a bit and think. Walking always helped him think. He felt tears gathering in his eyes and angrily shouted, "Enough!" He had never been an emotional person, prone to crying, and it infuriated him that he could not control himself. He needed to control himself and think clearly. He needed a plan of action. Plus, he had to find a way to get through the party and the days that followed without letting his family know there was a problem. The walk calmed his emotions, and his thoughts began to flow in a productive direction, forming the basis of a strategy. Realizing that he had been away from home for too long, he went to the store, bought 8 large bags of ice, and then headed home to begin the first act of the tragedy in which he reluctantly found himself. To his relief, Ellie saw him first. She took one look at him, and Dave knew his acting skills were already faltering. "Dad, what's wrong with you? You look terrible." "My stomach. I had to stop by the road because I was throwing up. Can you move the ice from the car to a large freezer? I need to lie down. Of course. I'll tell Mom you're not feeling well. Thank you, dear. Dave hoped that being alone for a few hours would give him time to gather his strength. There was no better alibi than an upset stomach. He heard someone coming up the stairs, so he quickly jumped onto the bed. Concerned, Linda opened the door to find him curled up on the bed. Honey, Ellie said you weren't feeling well. What's going on? I don't know. I don't think I have a fever, but my stomach is tightening, and I've already vomited. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Look, we have everything under control at the party, so just lie down for a while. If you feel better, come down. But if you miss the party, I'm sure our guests will understand. I don't want to miss it, but thanks for understanding. She kissed his forehead and unobtrusively checked to see if he had a fever. Then, to his relief, she quietly left the room. Dave started walking around the room. His logical mind began to formulate the outlines of a strategy. Then he began to fill in the details along with possible courses of action. Divorce was inevitable. Without a doubt, Rich and Linda will be fired. He worked out the financial details. He found it difficult to imagine ways to protect innocent spectators. He took care of Sonia and her sons, as well as his parents. But Ellie, whether she is his or not, all this will destroy her world. He thought she would want to stay with him, but he couldn't be sure. He had already lost his wife and best friend, and could not imagine that his relationship with his daughter could be disrupted. These fears threatened to bring another wave of tears, but he quietly chided himself to hold them back. As if sensing that he was thinking about her, Ellie chose this moment to visit him. He heard her jumping up the steps, so he quickly lay down. He pretended to be asleep, but again his acting skills failed him. Her hand gently stroked his hair near his ear. He couldn't look at her, otherwise his mask would collapse. Dad, are you okay? I don't know, honey. I want to try to get a few more hours of sleep before the guests arrive. Banjo jumped onto the bed and lovingly licked his owner's face. Dave let him do it, not only because he loved his dog's attention, but also because it was effective, deleted any accidental tears. Certainly, hey buddy, he said as he greeted his furry companion and hugged him. I love you, Dad. I hope you're feeling better, okay? Thanks, babe. I love you too. Since he had his back to her to hide his face, she had to lean down from behind to kiss his forehead. Feeling her love, a pleasant shiver ran through his body, as if physically confirming how much he loved his daughter. At that moment, he realized that he was making the right decision about the dilemma he was faced with. Ellie needs to know the whole truth before any confrontation. He knew when and how to do it, but he hated that it was necessary. What were Linda and Rich thinking, he thought? It seemed impossible to understand their cruel betrayal. Now he had to detonate a bomb in his family, revealing their betrayal. The blessings he had enjoyed less than 24 hours earlier were now painful memories of a perfect life that could no longer exist. With the bitter taste of betrayal in his mouth, he quietly let out his anger. Damn them. Damn their nasty asses. Dave managed to be social with the guests, and luckily Linda and Rich were too busy to interact with him. Hannah kept giving him curious glances, as if she knew something was wrong, but she didn't say anything. He held Ellie close to caress her and, to some extent, lean on her for strength. She felt his support, but assumed it was due to his poor health. Her watchful gaze gave him the comfort he needed to keep his mask from being exposed. He helped with the cleaning, then announced that he was going to bed early. His decision to use the guest room was valid, and Linda accepted that justification. He was pleased that his plans for the first night had been carried out successfully. The next morning, the whole family went to church. In the middle of the sermon, Dave pretended to feel his phone vibrate and looked at the screen with a disgusted expression. Linda gave him a questioning look, to which he whispered, "Later." As soon as the service ended, she asked, "What was that message?" The owner of Gupta Water Equipment needs my presence tomorrow for a meeting with a big client. He wants me to stay there until dinner, so I'll be back on Tuesday. Where are they located? In Pittsburgh. I'll have to go this afternoon. Are you feeling well enough? You looked pale yesterday. Yeah, it's okay. I'll go separately so you and Ellie can stay. Dave was pleased with himself. We were safe for 2 or 3 nights. At his parents' dinner on Sunday, he stayed away from Rich. Linda was busy helping with food and talking with Sonia, so she didn't notice his distant behavior. He left as soon as lunch was over, stopped at home to collect all the necessary paperwork, then drove to the Marriott Courtyard Hotel, about 5 miles on the other side of their business. He checked in and settled in, then called his lawyer, who fortunately was also a good friend and didn't mind calling on a Sunday. Hey Dave, what do I owe to a sudden call on Sunday from my favorite client? Bill, I'm sorry you used our friendship by calling today, but I have a serious problem. Damn, I'm sorry, mate. Do you want to come over and talk? I have a few bottles of Ewingling Lager with your name on them. You do not mind? Of course. I won't even charge you for the watch or the beer, he said with a laugh. Come right now if you want. Thanks, buddy. You're a good friend, and I really need a friend right now. Dave met with his lawyer, Bill Hardwick, and told him the whole situation. Bill had gone through a divorce himself for similar reasons, so he could really sympathize. As they got down to the details of Dave's plan, Bill realized why his services might be needed, even though he didn't specialize in family law. It's a smart move to combine business law and family law on this issue, Bill noted. Do you mind if I bring in my friend who handled my divorce? She's a real shark. I was hoping you would have a reference. How soon can we call her in? Let me call her now and see what she can do to fit us into her schedule. Bill stepped aside for privacy and called Angela Hall. She hated cheaters with a passion, and Bill knew she would treat Dave right. After a short conversation, he disconnected the call and returned to his friend. Good news. She's coming and joining us for dinner. Is that okay? Wow. I feel special getting this much attention on Sunday. Listen, friend. Hearing that your wife and brother did this really hurts my soul. We have to fix this. I have to say, you and Linda were the last people I expected to hear about in this situation. Yes, I am too. Okay? Don't start feeling too special. You're paying for dinner. We'll order from Kelly's Steakhouse when Angela gets here. They do delivery, and they know my address well since I can't cook. Angela turned out to be a wonderful woman, and Dave immediately realized that there was more than friendship between her and Bill. Bill quickly confirmed his suspicions. Yes, my friend, this beautiful lady is not available. Don't think you have a chance because we are getting married in a month. Wow, that's great. I could say a lot of sarcastic jokes, but my mood is throwing off my filters, and I don't want to seem rude. Relax, Dave. I already know I don't deserve this wonderful, wonderful woman. The three spent the evening reviewing strategy and planning their actions. Angela took Dave's financial documents and made an appointment for Monday afternoon to finalize the details. Everything was going to ensure that by Friday Dave was ready to file for divorce. At one point, they took a break so Dave could pretend he was in Pittsburgh when he called home. Linda answered. Hello, dear. I think you've already arrived. How are you feeling? A little tired, but okay. I quickly ate a burger and went to bed. Is Ellie around? Yes, right here, watching TV. Can you put it on speakerphone? Certainly. A minute passed while she handed the phone to her daughter. Hi, Dad. I miss you. You too, honey. I just wanted to let you know I'll be home in time for our Tuesday night. Oh, good. I was afraid you'd let me down. Never, honey. Dinner at a restaurant and a movie, that's it. Choose the movie you want to watch, starting around 7:30, okay? Certainly. Okay, guys, I'm going to bed. Love you both. After a chorus of love you, the conversation ended. Linda was a little disheartened that they hadn't talked longer, but she guessed the 5 to 6 hour drive had left Dave exhausted. Dave opened the window next to his hotel bed, hoping the fresh air would soothe his soul. Instead, strong odors from the dumpster below invaded his room. Appropriate, he thought, reflecting on the rotting mess his life had become. He slammed the window, threw himself on the bed, and spent the night haunted by the nightmare in which he lived. The next day, the meeting with Bill and Angela went well, and the evening call home was short and sweet when he claimed that clients were waiting for him for dinner. In fact, Dave sat in his local room, eating a burger with room service, planning his strategy for the next day when he would have to bring Ellie up to speed. This was the day he had to watch his little girl suddenly grow up learning about the darker side of life. This was the day he dreaded with all his heart. On Tuesday morning, Dave refined a few more points about his strategy, then met with a lawyer again to finalize issues related to the pending divorce and the severance package he planned to offer Linda and his ex-brother. He arrived at the office just after lunch to make it appear that he had just arrived from Pittsburgh. The sight of Hannah caused a surge of emotions that he thought he had under control. Instead of immediately inviting her into his office, he greeted her with a hesitant smile and closed the office door behind him. "Pull yourself together," he said quietly to himself. Having a list of actions in front of him was a crutch to help him maintain his composure. Taking out his notepad, he reviewed the plan, took a deep breath, and called his friend and trusted office manager into the office. "Hi, Dave," she said with her usual smile, which quickly disappeared when she saw his face. A few silent tears rolled down his cheeks. He not only couldn't control them, but he didn't seem to want to either. "Oh my God, what happened? Are you okay?" She threw aside all office rules and rushed to hug the man she cared about and who was clearly suffering. "Dave, what happened? Are you sick or something? Please talk to me." "No," he answered in a trembling voice. "I'm not sick. Nobody is sick." Hannah pulled the chair towards him and took his hand, stroking his arm as she sat next to him. Damn it," he grabbed a napkin as his composure began to return. "We need to make some changes here. I think they'll be good, but the reason they're needed is really, really disgusting." "What? What happened?" He looked at her with the saddest eyes she had ever seen. Swollen and red, they betrayed the extent of his pain. She realized that only one thing could shake him so much. "Linda? Is there something wrong with Linda?" He nodded, struggling for an answer. Lowering his head and looking away, he croaked one word: "Treason." "Oh my God, Linda," she hugged him again, seeing that he was losing his composure. "I can't believe it. Are you sure? Do you know who?" Dave nodded his head and clearly tried to name the culprit. Hannah knew she had to be patient. He looked up at her, and his face changed from overwhelming sadness to hot anger. "Rich, my own brother." Hannah suddenly jumped up and began pacing back and forth. "That son of a bitch," she blurted, trying not to speak too loudly. "That stupid, selfish bastard," she continued to pace back and forth, trying to make sense of her boss's suffering. After a few moments, she calmed down and hugged the broken man again. Suddenly, she woke up with realization and looked into his eyes. "You found out right before the party, didn't you?" "How did you guess?" "I felt like something was wrong, and I couldn't believe the story about the upset stomach. I overheard their conversation and immediately threw up. So the story about the upset stomach was partially true. And I'm guessing you weren't really in Pittsburgh yesterday, were you?" "No. Lawyers." "Is there any chance you'll end up with her?" "I prayed to find a way, but they dated for 16 years or more. I can't get over it. I'll never see her again as the woman I loved." Hannah went to the refrigerator in Dave's office, grabbed a Coca-Cola, then pulled out 2 glasses and a bottle of rum from the cabinet. "I think we could both use rum and Coke. What do you think of that?" I think it's a great idea. Hannah handed him the glass, and she collapsed into the chair opposite him, taking a long sip. They sat in silence for a while, looking at each other, then began discussing business matters. Dave started the conversation. It's clear that after Friday they're both fired. Sure. Rich's wife, Sonia, has a business background. I want to see if she can take Linda's place. We won't discuss that until next week, so you may have to take over Linda's duties for a while. I can handle it. I know her job and I can do it. I hope it won't be too long. I don't want to overwhelm you. No problem. I have strong shoulders. What about sales? Debbie Gleason recently said she wanted to go into sales. She's done a good job being Rich's internal supporter, and I think she'll be great. I agree. The hard part will be finding a replacement to take Debbie's place. Tammy Fields. She did systems development and helped with purchasing. She also took a lot of business courses. I think she can fit in easily. Okay? Sounds good. What's the time frame? This Friday, as soon as they get ready to leave. Tell them that you and I have been discussing expanding the sales department and want to know their opinion. Let them know that this is very important and they should not tell anyone. But you and I want to meet with them on Monday morning to offer a promotion. Got it. What else? Before Monday, can you draw up job descriptions for them? I'll discuss the pay terms when we meet with them on Monday. Yes. What else? A few more tears rolled down Dave's face. This may be the hardest task yet. You're one of my closest friends. I'm losing Linda, my best friend, so I apologize in advance if I have to lean on you even more. Hannah ran to the table and hugged Dave as he stood up. It will be the easiest task and the greatest honor. Hannah walked out of the office, her heart aching for Dave. He was too good a man to suffer like this, and she couldn't help but share his pain. Linda walked aimlessly back and forth, pretending to be busy in the now clean kitchen. She hadn't dated Rich for almost a year and was trying to understand why she was still giving in to him. She really didn't love him. Sex was boring and unsatisfying. After their brief conversation in the garden on Saturday, Linda decided she would stop the stupidity after this last time. She didn't believe Rich would actually tell Dave since he was also losing a lot. After all, she had risked too much for something she never enjoyed. In retrospect, she should have confessed years ago. She's always wondered why she would put her family in danger for such a ridiculous and senseless act. Dave interrupted her thoughts as he entered through the side door. She threw herself into his arms and kissed him. He seemed surprised, almost to the point of resistance. It's a meeting, he said with a hint of surprise in his voice. What caused this? I love you so much, and I've just missed us together since the picnic. I missed you too, honey, he lied. Are you ready for your big date with Ellie? Certainly. He wondered what would happen if he asked if she was ready to date Rich. She's getting ready and should be here in a minute. What do you have planned for the evening? I'm taking her to Vincent's Italian restaurant and then to a movie of her choice. Do you have any plans for the evening? He noticed how she flinched slightly. Not really. Thought I'd just go shopping. We don't need windows, he joked. Very funny. Just going to see if there's anything worthwhile on sale. Well, happy shopping. He regretted his words as soon as they left his mouth. What was that supposed to mean? What? Oh, nothing. Just trying to be funny. He noticed a strange twitching of her eyelid. Luckily, Ellie came down the stairs at this time and broke the awkward pause that was starting to grow. Dad. Ellie threw herself into his arms with her usual joyful greeting. She was dressed in her Sunday outfit and looked much older than he was willing to admit. She was growing up too fast, and today's discussion will make her grow up even faster. Baby, are you ready to paint the town? Paint the city? What does that mean? Just have a good time. Then yes, and with my favorite guy. When they left, Linda was overcome with emotion. She felt pride and love for Dave and Ellie, but guilt and remorse began to take over. After tonight, Rich and I will definitely be done, she thought. She waited 20 minutes, then grabbed her keys to go meet her longtime lover. Dave, I felt a tightness in my chest as I drove away from the house. Taking a few deep breaths, he nervously took Ellie's hand. Honey, I need to apologize in advance about tonight. Apologize? For what? We won't be able to have a fancy dinner or watch a movie tonight. I need to talk about some serious things and show you something. Something serious? Ellie's worried look began to bring tears. Dad, aren't you sick or something? No, baby. We'll stop for lunch at Chick-fil-A, and then we'll go somewhere and talk. Fine? Why can't you tell me now? Is this some kind of secret from Mom? You scared me. Please? There's nothing to be afraid of, baby. It will just be easier if I don't drive. Be patient, please. They were silent for several minutes until they pulled into the driveway of Chick-fil-A. After ordering chicken strips, they drove onto the main road. Baby, come on, eat while we get to wherever we're going. They drove almost in silence for 15 minutes before Dave pulled into a small office complex across from the Valley View Motel. Okay, Dad, we're parked. What's happening? Why did we come here? Dave looked at the innocent face sitting next to him and began to shake the foundation of her world. Honey, well, damn. Sorry, it's hard. She took his hand and forced herself to smile. It's okay, Dad. Tell me. Dave threw out a big sign. Your mom is having an affair. This has been going on for a long time. Ellie pulled her hand away from his in shock, her face scrunched up in pain. No, this can't be. Mom would never. I thought the same thing. It's like I never knew her. That's why we're here. She should meet him here in about 10 minutes. Meet with whom? We'll find out soon, baby. She cried and hugged her father's neck with all her might. This can't be. You must be mistaken. Her string of denials mixed with tears and emotions broke his heart. Dave noticed 2 cars pulling into the hotel parking lot. Ellie felt his attention caught by a scene on the other side of the street. She sat up and looked just in time to see her mom parking. Then she saw her Uncle Rich get out of the car and enter the motel office. With complete shock on her face, she quickly looked at her father and saw tears streaming down his face. A young woman witnessed her father's heart break, and her heart broke for him. She hugged him as tightly as she could in the car seat and cried from the horror they had endured together. She felt him trying to move and noticed that he was trying to take photographs of the tragic scene. They watched as the 2 lovers embraced and entered room 103 together. Dave touched his daughter's chin, forcing her to look at him. I'm so sorry, darling, he said, gently wiping the tears from her face. I am so sorry. They simply held each other for support as they each processed what they had seen. After a few minutes, Ellie sat up straight and looked at her father. This will destroy our family, won't it? Yes, honey. The 3 of us, Uncle Rich and Aunt Sonia, we'll all be affected by this. I'll stay with you no matter what. I don't want anything to do with her. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you with me, darling. You don't understand, Dad. If she tries to force me to stay with her, I will make her life so miserable that she will be forced to let me go. Count on it. He wished he could tell her that eventually she would have to save her relationship with Linda, but right now everyone was too on edge. This conversation might happen in a few months, but now it was too early. Ellie, the hardest part will be in the next few days. I'll run into your mom on Friday night. You'll need to carry on as normal until then. Can you? She started crying again. I don't know. How can I do this? Well, we can talk about this and the plans I've made. Let's get out of here and go somewhere where we can talk. Dave took her to a deserted county park where the lights would start working as soon as the sun went down. They talked, planned, cried, screamed in frustration, and bonded on a deep level like never before. It was two against the world. They returned home a little after 10 p.m. Ellie wasn't sure she could maintain a semblance of calm for 3 days. "Dad, I'm not sure I can see her without slapping her." "Watch your language, dear. You may hate to hear this, but eventually you will have to have a normal relationship with your mother. They will never be the same. I will never be able to respect her again. Okay, let's stick to the plan, and that should take the pressure off of having to act normal. When we get home, just pretend you're really tired and go straight to bed, okay?" "I can do that." Ellie paused for a moment to collect her thoughts. "Dad, I love you very much. I don't know how you cope with what she does, but I'm here with you, okay? How could a loser like me get such a wonderful daughter?" She took her father's hand as he drove up to their house. "You're far from a failure, Dad. You're the best man I know and the best dad a daughter could ask for." They quietly entered the house. Luckily, Linda had already gone to bed, which allowed Ellie to gather her thoughts. Dave found Linda pretending to be asleep. He assumed that she would not want to make love since she had just been with his brother. She didn't know that he was counting on her to avoid him so that he could avoid her. Dave was sad that this might be the last time they both got what they wanted in bed. They spent the whole night lying back to back, each pretending to be asleep, each with thoughts, each in silent tears. Dave woke up from a restless sleep and immediately smelled the coffee. He got up, washed, got dressed, and packed his suitcase for a 2-day trip to the other side of the city. On his way down, he quietly walked into Ellie's room to check if she was ready, and she greeted him with a quiet smile and a nod. He found Linda in the kitchen making pancakes for the family. She turned to him with a wide smile. "Good morning, dear. Breakfast is almost ready." He hugged her from behind and kissed her neck, as usual in the morning. As planned, Ellie came down from her room on time. "Good morning, parents." "Good morning, baby. Did you have a good evening with this handsome guy?" "Of course. Hey, Dad, have you told her yet?" Linda looked at her husband with a questioning look. "Said that? I forgot to tell you last night that I need to go back to Pittsburgh today and will be back on Friday. I mentioned it to Ellie last night, and she begged me to take her with me." "Of course," Linda answered happily. "Ellie will make your trip much more enjoyable." "Great," Ellie exclaimed. "I quickly poem Andy'll pack. It does not take a lot of time." Breakfast ended quickly, so there was little conversation. Ellie hurried to pack, and Dave went to his home office to get the necessary things. Ellie and Dave got into the car and both breathed a sigh of relief. "How did I cope, Dad?" "Perfect. Your idea of coming with me, however, was brilliant. Now neither of us will have to worry about the quality of our acting abilities." "You mean their quality is bad, right?" "Exactly. Dad, have you thought about having me around when you run into Mom?" "I'm still not sure, honey. I want to be there, and when you hit Uncle Rich, too." "Watch your language." "Sorry. This whole situation just seems like it deserves a ton of swearing." Dave smiled, admiring Ellie's strength of character. A question occurred to him. "If you're there, what will you say?" "I'm not sure. I think I would be guided by my first feelings, but she will have no doubts about how I feel and which side I'm on. I want her to know that she can't hide who she really is from me." They stopped at a hotel on the other side of town and took the elevator up to their room. Ellie was unusually quiet for a while. She looked at the floor of the elevator and quietly asked her father a question. "When do you think their affair began?" "I'm not sure, but it's been a while." This discussion continued in the room where they planned their next steps. It was a day when Ellie had to quickly grow up, learning about the dark sides of life that she and her father would now have to endure together. She looked up at her father with tears in her eyes. "You do not think?" He interrupted her. I know what you want to ask, baby. I don't know, but the answer won't change anything between us. They exited the elevator and walked silently to their room. As soon as the door closed, Ellie continued talking about what was bothering her. Do you want to know? I don't know. Dear, what about you? I know who my only dad is, but maybe it would be smart to find out. It's just, well, it's bad enough, being the daughter of one cheating man. I don't know if I can handle it if it turns out that I'm the daughter of two selfish idiots. So you want to know? I think so. Is this normal? Yes. I feel like this question is hanging over me like an axe. Maybe we can wait a couple of months. I have a reason to hold off for now. She responded with a tearful hug before they began unpacking. Ellie and Dave continued to strengthen their relationship at a nearby hotel during their stay. When Dave needed to meet with lawyers or attend to other matters, she spent time by the pool, swimming or reading in the sun. On the first day of their stay, Hannah came to the hotel to discuss their strategy and then joined them for dinner. Ellie and Hannah really hit it off. After dinner and already in their room, Ellie decided to openly express her opinion. Dad, you know Hannah has warm feelings for you, right? What? You think so? Yes, you really like her. You never, nothing happened to her. Dave stepped back, a look of surprise on his face. I hope you know me better. I would never cheat on your mom. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she threw herself into his arms. Oh, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't. I mean, I know it's not like you. I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry. Dave's heart melted. Honey, your mother really rocked your world and mine. I think it's logical to doubt if someone is for real after it turns out that one of the parents is not who they said they were. Rest assured, I am the one who you know. I loved your mother with everything. What I have and would never cheat on her or anyone else. Still holding back tears, Ellie asked him the question that had been on both of their minds. Then why did she do it? I don't know, baby. I just don't know. Hopefully we'll find out on Friday. I'm sorry I said that, Dad. I know how good you are. Sorry. You don't need forgiveness for asking what's on your mind. You just caught me off guard. The warm light of his daughter's presence quickly returned to Dave's heart. She cared for him and was his only real support for his sanity. He had almost forgotten that she had a lot to deal with too. The next day, Hannah called Linda at her home office. Hi, Hannah. Linda, how are you? Couldn't have gone better. What happened? How's the end of the month going? Almost finished. Why do you ask? Well, are you planning to come to the office tomorrow? Our guy will need your laptop for the weekend to update the software and check for viruses that we had on the network. I plan to be there all day. I need to catch up on some files. Great. See you tomorrow, and don't forget to bring your laptop. Maybe we can have lunch together, considering your usual lunch partner is out of town. Sounds good. See you then. Hannah breathed a sigh of relief. She knew that her soon-to-be ex-girlfriend's life was about to change dramatically. She felt homesick for her and her family. But somewhere deep inside, in a place she had spent years trying to control, she felt a bright ray of hope. On Friday, the day that was supposed to be the day her family was destroyed, Ellie woke up and wiped her eyes. She looked across the room and saw her father with a cup of coffee in his hand, looking out the window at something special. She could see a few tears slowly rolling down his cheeks. Dad, are you okay? He looked at her with a forced smile, walked over to her bed and sat down on the edge. He gently brushed her hair away from her eyes and kissed her forehead. Am I okay? Not really. What about you? Are you ready for a really bad day? Yes, she said with a sigh. There's no choice, is there? What do you mean, baby? You can't forgive her and stay, can you? I would if I could. I've struggled every minute since this fell upon me, asking the same question. But all these years, all this secretiveness, all her pretending to be loving and faithful. I just can't see her as the same woman I loved and married. Even if it was a random, isolated incident, I think I would find a way to forgive it. But it's more. They hugged each other and looked for support. Ellie whispered in his ear, "Thanks for including me. I'm glad I know what's going on. I'm not sure I could handle waking up tomorrow and suddenly finding out." He pulled away from the hug and looked into her teary eyes. "Baby, some might think it's wrong of me to act like this and include you in everything. I really needed your support, and your maturity for a 15-year-old girl is amazing. Are you okay?" "With my dad by my side, I'm fine." "Then I'm good too. What do you say? Let's start this storm." Language, Dad. Sorry, baby. After a light breakfast, which they both barely touched, they showered, packed their things, and checked out. They drove to the lawyer's office and were glad to see both Bill and Angela there. His legal team spent a lot of time talking to Ellie and were clearly impressed with the young lady's calm and collected personality. 4 of them reviewed the divorce papers and other documents. Ellie was passionate about being part of the revision team and had good questions and suggestions. Angela felt she had to make a comment. "Ellie, you seem to really understand and have a knack for it." "Actually," Ellie replied, "law interests me. Those are my favorite TV shows, of course." "The practice of law is actually very different from television," Bill added. "Oh, I'm sure," Ellie said, "but I still think it's something I'd like to do." "I have an idea," Angela suggested. "When you're older, maybe you'll want to work with me, helping our paralegal team. It'll give you some insight into the legal profession." "Yes, that would be great." Watching Ellie interact with Bill and Angela gave him confidence in his heart that she was fully capable of getting through this major storm. She'll be fine. The 4 enjoyed a light lunch together. Then Dave and Ellie did a few more things. They arrived home about half an hour before 3:30 p.m. At this time, the weight of what was about to happen seemed almost unbearable, and their awkward silence added to the pressure. Dave organized the evidence and documents on the dining room table, then convinced Ellie to play cribbage to kill time. They had an hour before the family was to be broken up and destroyed. The sound of the garage door opening alerted Ellie and Dave to take their seats at the table. There was no more pretense, no more masks. Everything became real. Very, very real. Linda came through the front door with bags in her hands, shouting, "Chinese food is here. Let's get the party started." Then she saw the gloomy faces of her daughter and husband sitting at the dining table. "Hey, you two. What's wrong?" Quietly but insistently, Dave said, "Sit down, Linda." She hesitantly walked up to the table and started saying, "What's going on?" Then she saw a photo of her Tuesday night meeting with Rich. She almost fell onto her chair. She composed herself as tears began to fall. An expression of excruciating pain darkened her face. Lowering her head, she began to repeat, "No, no, no, no." Collecting herself, she looked up and saw the 2 people she loved the most just sitting silently, looking at her. The intense look on their faces clearly expressed their contempt for her. "Please, Dave, don't do what I deserve," she said quietly between quiet sobs. She grabbed a tissue from the box they had placed nicely on the table and tried to wipe away enough tears to clear her distorted vision. After a moment of anguish, Dave softly asked, "What do you think you deserve?" She cried harder as she blurted out the words, "Please don't leave me. Don't throw me away." "You mean how you threw away our marriage? Our family?" "Oh, God, please. It was a terrible mistake," she cried. Calmly, Dave asked quietly, "How long did this bug, as you call it, last?" She hesitated, wondering if she could avoid answering. Not sure what Dave already knew, she tried to answer safely. "It doesn't matter. Once was enough. Please, Dave, can we get over this?" "Doesn't matter? Are you serious?" She flinched at the harshness and volume of his answer. She finally admitted to herself that he knew. She didn't know how he knew, but he knew. "How long?" he shouted. She lowered her forehead to her hands, her elbows resting on the table. She couldn't look at her husband or daughter while answering. "It's just before he met Sonia." "I see," Dave said sarcastically. "So, about 17 years. I guess 17 years of cheating on me doesn't matter to you. Is that what you're saying?" "No, of course it matters. It was terrible, selfish, and painful." Ellie couldn't hold back any longer. "Come on, Mom, how could you do this? Do you understand how much you destroyed Dad and me?" Dave suddenly stood up to emphasize his anger. "Who the hell are you? Linda, what the hell are you?" "I think I know," Ellie added. "Let's see, harlot, cheater, liar, traitor. Oh yes, and how about it, bitch?" Linda was almost on the verge of hysterics. Her bowels and bladder fought to relieve the internal tension she was under. "Please don't call me that," Linda begged. "Dave, please tell her not to say things like that." "When she says something that is not true, I will correct her," he replied angrily. The members of the broken family were silent for a few moments, except for Linda. She tried to stay calm, but she couldn't stop sobbing. Finally, she was able to ask the question that was most on her heart. She knew the answer that would destroy her. "What are you going to do?" Dave replied, "Go up to your room, get yourself cleaned up and calm down for a few minutes. Your crying is only annoying us. Then come down and we can talk for a few minutes before Ellie and I leave." "But we need to fix this. Where are you going?" "It's none of your business, and there's no way in hell it can be fixed in a few hours. Go upstairs," he ordered. Linda staggered up the stairs and Dave sent the expected message to Linda's sister. "Dave, done. She needs you." "Shelley, I'll be there in 30. "Dave, great. We won't leave until you come. Just come in." "Shelley, understood." Linda sat on her bed and let her emotions take over. Tears flowed as she sobbed uncontrollably for the first 5 minutes until her mind grew cold. As the tears subsided, so did her thoughts. She began to think of ways to keep her family together. She laid her head down on the bed and realization hit her. This won't be her bed anymore. She destroyed everything for no reason. A new wave of tears appeared. 20 minutes later, she came downstairs, still clearly stressed, but more collected. She sat silently looking modest and bashful. She was glad that Ellie was not present for this part of the conversation. She waited for Dave to take the initiative. "First of all, I think you understand that you are fired." Linda's tears appeared again. "Why? I'm good at my job. Why fire me?" "Do you really need to ask? I don't know who you are anymore, or if I can trust you. Plus, frankly, I don't want you around." She looked down to compose herself, then asked, "What else?" "Here are the documents that I'm sure you were expecting. The envelope includes the compensation package and agreement. Open your own bank account with a check in there. As for the documents, study them. You should probably hire a lawyer. I'll pay the initial expenses, but if you dispute anything, it will be at your expense." "This all seems so cruel, and it's not like you, darling. Can't we try to fix it?" Ignoring everything she said, Dave continued, "Shelley will be here to support you soon. I strongly suggest you go with her for a week or so because I'm not ready to talk. When we're both ready, you can come back here to the guest room until more permanent things are done. Devices. Can't I just stay?" "Damn, Linda, I really don't want to see your face for a while." The last sentence was like a knife to her chest. She froze before asking another question that she was afraid to ask. "Have you decided yet? Isn't there a chance for us?" "I don't see a way to overcome this. Linda, 17 years, and with my brother. You two have completely destroyed 2 marriages and destroyed 3 families." "3? Of course, us, Sonia and Rich, as well as my parents, now that my brother is dead to me." Her face sank as the severity of her behavior became greater. "Oh, God, forgive me," she begged. "I'm sure God will forgive. I hope that the coming years will force me to be more lenient than I am now." Shelley's timing was perfect to enter. Dave hugged her and then called Ellie from her room. Before leaving, he turned and met his wife's gaze. Both saw the agony on each other's faces. At that moment, he felt the complete pain of their lives being torn apart. The two who had become one almost 18 years ago were now brutally separated to become two again. This wound won't heal anytime soon, if at all. Dave and Ellie both knew the plan as they drove in silence to their next destination. Whether they are ready or not is the question in their minds. Initially, Dave really wanted to enjoy what was coming next. He then realized how many people would be seriously hurt in the next moments. Being the one who brings pain to everyone broke his heart. They pulled up to Sonia and Rich's house behind their father's car. He knew his parents were coming for dinner. He prayed that they would be okay after what was about to happen, but he needed them to see the evidence and the confrontation with their own eyes. Dave was going to cut his brother out of his life, and they needed to figure out why. Dave's heart was beating so fast that he was afraid of fainting. Ellie noticed him struggling, so she took his hand and smiled at him. "Dad, everything will be fine. We can handle it." "Okay, baby. Remember, stay close to your grandparents and give them a photo when I give one to Sonia. Everything is under control. You still haven't answered. Are you going to beat up Uncle Shithead?" "I don't plan to, but we'll see what happens. Remind me that we need to talk about your obsession with swearing," he said, forcing himself to smile. Ellie and Dave walked in without knocking just after everyone in the house had finished dinner. The four adults had just left the table, and the children were elsewhere in the house. Ellie rushed to hug her grandparents while Sonia greeted Dave. "Hey guys, I wasn't expecting you, but we have plenty of food if you're hungry." Dave kissed his daughter-in-law on the forehead. "Thank you, but we've already eaten. I'm afraid we have an unpleasant topic to discuss." He gave Sonia a photo of Rich and Linda's meeting, while Ellie gave her grandparents a copy of theirs. Chorus of questions, "What is this?" filled the room, growing louder as the images became clearer. Dave gave a copy to his brother. "Well, dear brother, would you like to explain?" Rich turned pale and shrank back in his chair. "Yes," his father asked the younger one. "Can you explain this, Richard?" Sonia rushed at her husband, shouting obscenities and accusations. Dave had to make an effort to restrain her and calm her down. "Let's listen to his explanation." "Yeah, let's listen," their mother added as Ellie hugged her protectively. Rich stuttered and hesitated, trying to find the words that could get him out of this mess. "That was... Damn, how did you get that photo?" "Wrong answer, asshole," Dave shouted. "I know the truth, so let's hear you confess." "You know so much, tell the bullshit story yourself," Rich blurted out angrily. Sonia looked at Dave with pleading eyes. "Dave, please." "Okay, this scumbag and my wife were having an affair. Not just a passing fling. Oh no, these assholes have been dating since before he even met you, Sonia." She hurled curses and insults with the speed of a Tasmanian devil. Finally, exhausted, she began to cry, ran into the living room, and threw herself on the sofa. Their mother and Ellie went to help her. Their father walked up to Rich and, standing uncomfortably close, asked him with an undeniable tone of authority, "Is this true, Richard?" Rich looked up at his father, his face full of tears, and simply nodded. "You dumb shit. How could you do this to your brother and your wife? Damn, son, I don't know how I could be more disappointed. You're a complete disgrace." "I'm sorry," Rich pleaded. "I'm so sorry, Dave. I..." "Forget it, asshole," Dave blurted out. "There's nothing you can say to make this situation better. You're dead to me, man. I never want to see you again. And by the way, you're fired." "Dad," Dave continued, "I don't have a brother. Do you understand?" "Son, cool down a little." Dad, I do not have a brother. I never want to see him at Sunday dinners, holidays, weddings, or anything else. If he appears too often, I will assume that you have made your choice. Clear? Okay, son, I understand. But don't expect your mom and I to reject him the way you're about to. I understand that. Just don't think it's something you can fix. Sonia led the women back to the dining room, screaming at the top of her lungs. I put up with your crap, and this is how you treat your family. Get out, pack your things, and leave, now. Come on, Rich, their father ordered. And don't think that you'll stay with us. None of us want to see you right now. Rich looked at his father with tears in his eyes. He looked at his mother, hoping to find tenderness in her gaze, but saw only contempt. He got up from the floor to collect his things. Dave gave him some final instructions before leaving the room. Listen, you shithead, show up at Billy Hardwick's office at 10:00 on Monday. Give your company card to him and he will give you your pay packet. Please read the terms and conditions carefully. Now I need the keys to the office. Hannah and I will put your things away and Bill will have them for you to pick up. Rich took the office keys from his pocket, took them off the keychain, and, without looking him in the eye, handed them to his brother. Dave then walked over to Rich's computer bag and Rich tensed in panic. I'm taking your computer, Dave said. No, Rich said anxiously. My things are there. I can't allow a former employee to have access to company equipment or information. Anything personal that's here will be with Bill when you come in on Monday. No, Rich shouted. Give it to me for a few minutes. Rich's reaction alarmed Dave. Now, more than ever, he was determined to take the computer bag before Rich could get to it. Remember, this is company property and she's coming with me. Stand back. Rich, in complete despair, rushed at his brother. They got into a fight. Dave came to his senses as he looked around the scene. Sonia, I'm so sorry I threw this at you so suddenly. Can we talk privately this weekend? I think yes. Mom, Dad, sorry about that. We understand, his mother replied. We'll talk later, okay? Yes, I'd like that. Ellie, I think I've caused enough trouble for today. Are you ready to go home? Let's go, Dad. Turning to his father, Dave asked for one more favor. Could you and Mom stay behind to help Sonia and make sure this idiot leaves peacefully? We can handle it, son. Take care of your family. You mean what's left of her? It's just me and Ellie now. We're here for you too, son. Ellie and Dave drove away in silence. Dave had some regrets about the scene he had caused, but a large part of him was glad that he could take his anger out on a deserving target. Now a more urgent concern quickly took over his thoughts, and Ellie noticed it too. Why is Uncle Rich so angry about the computer bag? What's in there? I'm thinking about it too. Baby, let's go home and find out. Dad, are you okay? You were a little out of it. I guess I really wasn't myself, right? Absolutely, but you probably liked it. He looked at his daughter, and they exchanged knowing smiles. Rich was left alone by his family and began packing his belongings into several suitcases and trash bags. He was upset that his long-term affair had been revealed. But what annoyed him most was that Dave took this bag with the computer. He needed this thing now more than ever. He made sure no one saw him loading a metal box into one of the large suitcases. He will need its contents to survive for a while. Having loaded everything, he left his house without saying goodbye to anyone. He needed to get as far as possible, so he headed north on the Pennsylvania Turnpike Northeast Extension. He needed time, but he didn't know when Dave would learn the truth about his misdeeds. He needed to disappear. Rich didn't work well under pressure, so his plans were thrown into disarray. He wanted to find a small town in Wyoming, or perhaps Idaho. He thought he could rent a cheap place for cash, unload, and then drive further west to get rid of the car. To return to the rental apartment, he will have to steal a car or motorcycle. Another option was to take a train or bus, which would not involve the local police. Even more urgently, he needed to buy a computer. But without the file, which was on Dave's laptop, he didn't know how to access his accounts. Damn, he cursed to himself. How quickly did things go to hell? In his haste and panic, Rich missed two important things. One was lying on the console next to him. The other was directly above his rearview mirror. Dave realized that he and Ellie hadn't eaten dinner, so he stopped for fast food on the way home. They arrived at an empty house. On the one hand, they were glad that they didn't have to deal with Linda, but they already felt a gap in their lives due to her absence. After eating, Dave took his brother's computer bag to his home office and began examining the contents. Everything seemed normal until he found an envelope that didn't look right. The envelope had the logo of one of its major clients, Brandy Water Processes. There was nothing written on it. He opened it and found inside a check for $9,900 addressed to Rich's cleaning services. It didn't take long for Dave to come up with various scenarios that could explain this. It was a bribe. "Rich, what have you been doing?" he asked out loud. Finding no other documents in the bag, he turned on the computer using his administrative password. It didn't take him long to find a file that a novice might consider hidden, but Dave was no novice. Realizing what he had discovered, he made another call to Bill, his lawyer friend. "Dave, I was hoping you'd call. How did your encounters go?" "As expected, I have new data. Once again, I need your help, and this time it's urgent." "Is it as urgent as tonight?" "Probably both. Can you come over? I really don't want to leave Ellie alone." "Should I bring Angela with me?" "It's not related to divorce, but it's always welcome." Bill Hardwick arrived 25 minutes later to find out what his friend's latest crisis was. Dave showed him the receipt and the contents of the computer file. "What do you think, Bill?" "You already know what I think, don't you? Bribery and blackmail, right? At a minimum, possibly tax evasion and other crimes. These are federal charges, so the FBI will need to be involved. This also means a guaranteed prison sentence." "What should I do?" "Let me call a friend at the Bureau. If what you're saying about Rich's condition is to be believed, we need to act quickly. He's definitely a flight risk." Bill left a message on his friend's FBI answering machine and returned to Dave, who was waiting for him. "Okay, my friend, I expect him to call in the morning. We will need to meet with him as soon as possible. Let me take the bag with the computer and the check, since it is possible that Rich will try to take them from you." "Good idea. You know, Dave, most people pay extra for legal services on weekends and outside of business hours. It has become a habit," he said with a laugh. "What surcharge do you mean?" "Oh, I don't know. How about a bottle of Balvenie 14-year-old single malt?" "Agreed, my friend." As he walked out the door, a thought occurred to Bill. "Oh, Dave, I guess we shouldn't give Rich the retirement agreement the way it's written." "Good point. I don't want to suggest FBI involvement. Can you add a delay in payment, perhaps based on expense reconciliation or something like that?" "Yes, I can do that." Dave had hoped to talk to Sonia and his parents on Saturday, but put it off when Bill called early the next morning. They had a meeting at 10:00 a.m. with Agent Steve Major at the FBI office in Philadelphia. Ellie gave him no choice about her participation. They were together and faced problems together. Dave and Bill showed the evidence to the agent, after which he called his boss, Jack Sims, to a meeting. After the presentations, they reviewed the evidence. Jack rubbed his chin, mulling over the documents in front of him. "We have a spreadsheet with all the bribes, an outstanding check from the last one, offshore account details with, how much is there?" $785,952, Dave replied. "And all these funds belong to your company?" "I would think so. Rich had the authority to negotiate the price on any project as long as the estimated gross margin did not fall below 23%. On all projects that I checked, the margin was slightly above this limit. So he was clearly giving the lowest price in exchange for a bribe, which was nothing compared to the savings for the client. And you had 14 clients willing to do business this way. You realize they'll all be prosecuted too, right? Yes, sir, Dave replied. Do you know where Rich is? No, Dave replied. He was supposed to meet Bill on Monday to get his pay package, but given his behavior when I took his bag with his computer, and the fact that his wife and family kicked him out, he's probably on the run, Agent Majors finished for Dave. Steve, see if you can find his cell phone, Jack ordered. They talked until Steve returned. He's on the run. Luckily, he's not smart enough to turn off his phone or the OnStar system in his car. He's in Ohio, on Route 80, heading west. Okay, let's track him and try to apprehend him as late as possible on Sunday. This will give us more time to hold him until charges are filed. Work with local offices as he comes into their area. Have them track him until the time comes to arrest him on suspicion. With the evidence we have, I think we can prepare formal charges by Monday morning, but we can hold him for 48 hours without formally filing charges. Bill, Ellie, and Dave chatted freely on the way home. Before Rich's crimes were discovered, he had other plans to punish his ex-brother, which depended on the results of Ellie's DNA test. If the test had shown that Ellie was Rich's descendant, he would have required 18 years of maintenance after the division of Rich and Sonia's funds. Prison seemed like a much better option than anything he had in mind. The DNA results no longer affected his plans for revenge, and for that Dave was extremely grateful. Bill dropped Dave and Ellie off, and they immediately agreed to meet Sonia and Dave's parents at Sonia's house. Dave's mom spent most of the meeting in tears after learning about her youngest son's actions. His father looked angry enough to spit out the nails. Sonia, however, was rightly worried about what would happen to her and her sons. Dave, what do I do now? How are we going to live? I'm glad that bastard. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that you. It's okay, honey. I understand, she said tearfully. So, Sonia continued, I'm glad he's going to prison. Someday, when we get through this storm, I'll tell you all the things he did to me. But now, what should I do? Dave proposed his plans, hoping Sonia would agree. Well, first, we need to get you a lawyer. You should use my lawyer, Angela Hall, for the divorce. If he ends up in jail, you should get the majority of all your joint assets. Then, if what the FBI says turns out to be true, the money Rich stole from the company will be returned. When that happens, I will need some of those funds to reorganize my business. Of the remaining money, I'll put most of it into a trust fund for you and the boys. You will have full access to it as needed. Lastly, I know you have an associate degree in business, so I'm assuming you can do accounting and basic bookkeeping. I would be very glad if you could take Linda's place in my company. The big plus will be that you can work from home and still take care of your boys. How do you like this offer? Sonia threw herself into Dave's arms, crying with joy and relief. Dave's parents also pledged their support. Dave smiled at Ellie, who was beaming with pride at the way her father always took care of the family. On the way home, Dave could hardly bring himself to ask Ellie the pressing question. Babe, we were talking earlier about maybe doing DNA tests. Have you thought about that yet? I've been thinking, and it's a tough decision, but I think we have to do it. Is that okay? Aren't you angry? No, I can't be angry about it. And I think you're right. I'll buy the tests and we can do it this week. Do you believe me when I say the results won't change anything about how much I love you? I love you, right? I know it won't change how I feel about you, so yes, I believe you. I just want to know. Dave was really scared to talk to Ellie about this, but now he could relax a little. There was still a lot to be done, but solving one more item on his list of problems helped him see that the end of this nightmare was near. The night he left, Rich drove all night west on Route 80. Just before entering Ohio, He stopped at a McDonald's to have breakfast and get some rest. Using his iPad, he looked for possible places to stop. He decided to stop in Sioux Falls. It seemed to be a fairly remote location, but large enough for him to remain undetected. He found a cheap furnished room online and later called to reserve it. He could have dropped off the car near Fargo, which is about 6 hours north of Sioux Falls, then returned by bus. He closed the car door, feeling better about his circumstances. "Yes," he shouted out loud, "I have a plan." Once back on the road, he began to ponder the likelihood of his escaping responsibility. The more he thought, the more frightened he became at the thought of how stupid his plan was. However, he felt that he had no choice. For a moment his spirits sank, and he thought of giving up and seeking mercy from the court. But this choice scared him even more, so he continued moving. His thoughts went back to his family and what he had done to them. He forced his heart to harden and focused on his anger instead of worrying about his regrets. He drove until lack of sleep made driving dangerous. He found an inconspicuous parking spot at Cracker Barrel and took a nap for a few hours. On Sunday, he woke up just as the restaurant was opening and decided to have breakfast before heading out. Back on the road, he drove mechanically, still thinking about everything that had happened. No matter how much he wanted to deny responsibility for his mistakes, he felt the growing weight of the consequences he was about to face. He loved his family. He felt some irritation, but he loved his brother. He wondered what had caused him to go so far astray. Daylight was fading as he pulled up to a diner near Omaha. It was only 200 miles to Sioux Falls, where he would find a cheap motel. He had an appointment to get a room in the morning. Then he would take care of getting rid of the car in Fargo. Everything was going well, so he thought. He walked towards the door of the diner, and two men approached him. As soon as they asked if he was Richard Pearson, he knew he was hooked. The FBI has found its man. On Monday morning, Dave brought donuts, bagels, and coffee and scheduled a meeting for all employees at 9:00. At 8:00, he met separately with Debbie Gleason and Tammy Fields to tell them the good news of their promotions. At a company meeting, he introduced them as the new sales team. His staff supported him after hearing about everything that had happened and were glad that Debbie and Tammy were given more responsibility. All unpleasant news and changes were announced. Then, once the shock wore off, Dave was able to focus again on moving forward with his business and personal life. Rich was formally charged with several crimes the next morning. Charges against his clients who paid the bribes will follow as the FBI investigates each case. Knowing that he would lose a significant portion of his customer base, Dave began planning changes to his business structure, splitting the manufacturing segment under a new name and developing the distribution business as a new company. He had all the business details in place just in time for Linda's return. He will need all his wits and energy to weather this storm. Dave and Ellie were enjoying dinner for their first Friday Chinese movie night without Linda when he felt his phone vibrate. Looking at the screen, he took a deep breath and answered the call. "What, Linda?" Dave noticed Ellie frown at the mention of her mother's name. "Dave, I miss you. It's good to hear your voice." He answered coldly. "Yeah, what do you want?" I'm ready to go home. Is that okay? Come back later tomorrow morning. We'll talk and see where we come up. Have you found a lawyer?" "Yes, I hired Rhonda." "We'll talk tomorrow," he said, cutting her off before hanging up. Ellie put her hand on his. "Are you okay?" He had to smile to somehow reassure her. She saw that he was not lying, so she tried to answer. "As much as possible now. How did I cope?" Short and sweet and borderline rude. I liked it. Just remind me never to make you angry. "Oh, baby, I don't think you could make me as angry as your mother did." They were enjoying their time together, watching a movie they probably wouldn't remember an hour later. Their thoughts were consumed with all the problems in their lives. Their Friday tradition felt strange without Linda, but the father-daughter relationship grew stronger than ever. On Saturday morning, Ellie and Dave were sitting in the living room, each immersed in their iPads, when Linda walked in. She didn't know what to say, so she remained silent. Ellie stood up and walked upstairs to her room, without looking at or addressing her mother. Dave looked up from the screen in time to see the pain on Linda's face, then returned to his iPad to finish his game of solitaire. "Hey, Dave." He raised a finger in the universal gesture that means wait. Less than a minute later, when a round of solitaire ended in failure, he sighed in disappointment, closed the iPad, and finally turned his attention to her. "Okay, Linda, let's talk. Have you read the documents?" "Yes," she sat down, accepting the offer. "But can't we talk about staying together as a family? I can't bear the thought of things changing." "What? We stay married while you date whoever you want whenever you want." "No, that's not what I meant," she protested. "We were a happy, loving family. Why does this have to end? I'll never take that risk again." "You're welcome, Dave. This is killing me." "What did you think would happen when your 17-year affair was discovered, huh? Oh, I get it. You never thought you'd get caught. You'll just have your dirty little secret, and you and my stupid brother can keep dating and laugh at stupid old Dave sitting at home alone." No, it was never like that. We never said anything bad about you, and I will never cheat on you again. I can't bear the thought of putting us all through something like that again. Are you telling me that you've spent the last 17 years disrespecting me and our family and never thought about the consequences? How can I believe that potential consequences will ever stop you from your damn selfish behavior? Her tears appeared again. "Please, Dave, one more chance. Is that too much?" "Yes, damn it, that's too much. Once or twice due to some, I don't know, weird psychological episode or too much alcohol, then maybe I could get over it." Dave stood up, walked around the room, and yelled at Linda for the first time in their lives. "But 17 damn years? What was that? I know he's no bigger. Did he have some special skill that melted away your resistance? Or maybe you just realized that you married the wrong brother and are really, really in love with him. What made you want him so uncontrollably, huh? Tell me why." Linda sank onto the sofa and tried to answer through her tears. No. I never loved him. And he was terrible in bed. Selfish. He never thought about me." "Wow," Dave said calmly. "So for the sake of having bad sex with someone you don't even love, you risked everything by continuing to date him for 17 years. Imagine how warm and cozy it makes me to know that you cared so little about me that you continued to do this without trying to complete your novel. And you still can't tell me why, can you?" "I don't know," she cried. "I really don't know. It was incredibly stupid and selfish. The first time was a stupid mistake after we drank too much while you weren't home. After that it continued because he threatened to tell you if we didn't keep going. Meet. I don't know. Maybe there was some small feeling of thrill from being able to avoid punishment. I can't tell you why. I just don't know." "How does it feel now, Linda? Admit it. It's over between us." Dave looked at her as she sobbed and thought it was time to soften his anger. "Give yourself a few minutes to calm down. Would you like some water?" "Please," she said with a husky voice. He took the bottle from the refrigerator and handed it to her. "When you're ready, come to the table and we'll talk about documents and living conditions." Ellie sat on her bed and listened to her parents talk. She didn't want to cry, but she couldn't hold back her tears. Hearing them quarrel was painful for her. It broke her heart even more when she heard her father suffering. However, being angry with her mother helped her maintain her composure. She and her father could heal together. As for her mother, as much as Ellie cared, she could have been drowning in her own unhappiness. Dave decided to take the opportunity to go to the toilet. He allowed himself to cry tears he didn't want Linda to see. He needed to pull himself together, toughen up, and protect his feelings for his still-beloved wife. He had to act without emotion. As Dave left the restroom, he noticed Linda walking slowly towards the dining room. He walked in and sat down opposite her. She looked up at him. Her face was swollen, and her eyes, red from crying, spoke of her suffering. He saw a sadness in her that he hoped he would never see. Her demeanor published a complete breakdown. It was hard for him to see her like this, and he was tormented by an internal struggle between the desire to enjoy her suffering and the desire to ease her pain. These torn feelings did not help either him or her. That decided it for him. The shouting and accusations had to stop, at least on his part. "Sorry for yelling, Linda. I'll try to control myself, okay?" She barely audibly whispered in response. "You can yell at me, scold me, hit me if you want, if it will help us stay together, but I know that won't happen." "No, it will not. Have you read everything?" "Yes," she said with one last sob. "Everything is very fair. I just can't give up on Ellie. If she stays with me, I have to keep the house. I will refuse some of the money you offered, but please let Ellie stay with me." "I can't do this, Linda. You know, she and I have a special connection. And now that you've taken my family and I'm losing my best friend, you expect me to be able to cope without the person I love most in the world. It will not happen. I lost everything that mattered except Ellie. Don't make me do this. Besides, in a few months, when she turns 16, she will be able to choose for herself. There's no point in trying to go against her wishes now. Dave, you won't lose her. You will still see her, and she will be with you often. But I need to heal the wounds I've caused and repair our relationship. I can't do this if she's not with me. It won't work the way you think. In fact, I think it will do the opposite. All she feels for you now is anger, and she won't be able to forgive you in 5 or 6 months. Living apart will help her get through this, and we both can encourage her to take you back. Make her do it your way, and you won't like it." "Damn it, Dave. I won't give her up," Linda screamed. They didn't know that Ellie was standing around the corner listening to their conversation. She jumped out and started screaming in her mother's face, calling her terrible names, pointing out every traitorous act, threatening her with everything she could do. The tirade continued for more than 10 minutes. Linda continued to turn away, but Ellie moved to remain in front of her. At one point, Ellie grabbed her chin and forced her to look at the anger she wanted her mother to see. Dave wondered how long he should let her continue, then walked over to Ellie and gave her a gentle hug to calm her down and pull her away from Linda. He was relieved that she let him take control. Linda tried to recover from the attack and fought not to cry. She found the strength to plead with dignity. "Ellie, please, I love you and I need you to be with me." In a calm tone, Ellie replied, "That won't happen. I'll run away from Daddy every day. And if I'm stuck here with you, I'll make your life miserable. Daddy won't be here to pull me away from you. Got it, Linda?" "Linda," her mother asked, "what happened to Mom?" "Yes, that's what we all want to know, bitch." Her message was delivered, and Ellie calmly went up to her room, smiling to herself, although her deep sadness brought more tears. Linda wisely decided that she could not stay in the same house while the divorce was ongoing. She didn't want to rent an apartment because she was going to fight for Ellie and their house, so she temporarily moved in with her sister. The divorce battle lines were drawn, and the family found themselves in court before Judge Stan Lawson. Judge Lawson reviewed the two divorce petitions and formed an idea of how the proceedings should proceed. He usually granted requests for family counseling, but it was clear that in this case, it would not improve the situation. Having an affair with my husband's brother for 17 years seemed too difficult to overcome. This meant that the only real problem was custody of their daughter. Following normal norms, he would prefer to give custody to his mother, but the girl was close to the age when she could choose for herself. He decided to see how things would turn out in court. The trial was declared open and all preliminary procedures were completed. Linda's lawyer began the process. "Your Honor, my client does not want a divorce and has filed a counterclaim only if reconciliation proves impossible. In this regard, She asks the court to order at least 12 counseling sessions or until the spouses are reconciled. The judge knew this was coming. Advisor, having familiarized myself with the details of this case, I see no reason for consultation. It is clear that the reasons for this divorce suit make attempts at reconciliation through counseling a waste of time and money. The petition was rejected. Linda's lawyer continued. Then, Your Honor, the main issue remains custody of their daughter. My client, counselor, given the facts before me, and to save time, I would like to speak with Ellie Pearson in my office. We'll be leaving for lunch, and Ellie, I invite you to join me and the court officer for a sandwich. Does it suit you? Yes, Your Honor. Linda stood up and began to object. No, I should be with Mrs. Pearson. You are disturbing the order. No, you should not and will not be present during our conversation. The court officer will ensure her safety and well-being. The trial is adjourned until lunchtime and will resume at 1:30. The bailiff escorted Ellie to the judge's office, and he greeted her with a handshake and a welcoming smile. Hi, Ellie. It's really nice to meet you. And you too, Your Honor, although I would prefer it if my family wasn't in such a mess for us to meet. Yes, he laughed. Look, outside of court, you don't have to be so formal. Thank you, but I think you've earned your title, and not using it seems wrong. That's very thoughtful of you. Well, young lady, I'm guessing it's been a tough time for you. It was terrible, but not as bad as it was for Dad. That's what I thought. Well, let's look at the sandwich menu and I'll ask the usher to order. Then we can chat. Okay. It sounds good. After the orders were made, they talked about nothing in particular so that the judge could form an opinion about Allie's personality and maturity. To say that he was impressed by this young lady would not be enough. After they finished eating, the judge suggested moving on to the main topic. Ellie, just so you understand, it's rare that a mother doesn't get custody in cases like this. How do you feel about that? Your Honor, I think this is a lazy approach. It doesn't take into account everything that has happened, and it certainly doesn't align with what I want and what I think is best. Okay, that's fair. So, what do you think should happen and why? I have to stay with Daddy. This is not just an emotional response from a child. I have many reasons. Can you tell me more? Of course. First of all, my dad and I were always closer than me and my mom. Not in a bad way. I loved my mom. Loved? In the past tense. Deep in my heart, I'm sure I still love her. But what she did to Dad was cruel. I've never seen Dad cry, and now it happens all the time. She destroyed him. She destroyed me too. Me and Dad, we need each other to get over how she betrayed us. Your mom probably needs you too. Shouldn't that be taken into account? It may sound like I want revenge, but I don't. She did it. She caused it. Besides, Dad isn't the type to be alone. I want more than anything to stay with him. Okay, is there anything else? First of all, I have a question. How old do I have to be before I can choose for myself? 16 years. That's what I thought. It's in 3 months. If you say that I have to live with her, that means that in 3 months me and my dad will have to spend more money to come and tell you that I want to stay with him. This is all? No. Now I can't control my anger when she's around. I know that someday I'll have to get over it and mend my relationship with her. But forcing me to stay with her right after she does is not going to make us best friends. In fact, I will be unhappy, and I think I will make her unhappy too. Is it a fact? Let me be honest. I will run to Daddy every chance I get. When I'm in the same room with her, I intend to make her understand that forcing you to make the wrong choice was a mistake. Oh, so you have plans to get revenge on her? I wouldn't put it that way, but yes, she'll know it was a mistake. I'm guessing in less than a week she'll take me to Daddy and tell him to leave me. Would you like to share your plans? Not really. I see, he said with a laugh. Just curious, have you thought about becoming a lawyer? I'm already on that path. Next summer, I'll be helping out on Miss Hall's legal team. That's great to hear, Ellie. I have to say, when you get your bar license, I wouldn't want to be your opponent, he remarked thoughtfully. So, shall we take you back to your dad? It depends. Will you let me stay with him? I will make a decision soon, and everyone will know that I have decided. I know that the judge is considered wise and fair. I very much hope so, and I hope that in an hour you will tell Melike just like now, just like now. Are you blackmailing me? He asked with a friendly smile on his face. No, Your Honor. I'm just telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They smiled, shook hands, and went their separate ways. When Ellie found her father, she told him that she thought everything had gone well. They'll soon find out how good it is. When the trial resumed, the judge immediately took the initiative into his own hands. I had a serious conversation with Ellie. Both parents should be very proud of this amazing young woman. She calmly and professionally expressed her thoughts to me, and I took them into account in my decision. Linda and her lawyer were discussing something, and Linda couldn't contain herself. Tell him, she said loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. The judge, clearly annoyed, slammed his gavel down and glared at them. Counselor, are we in trouble? I'm sorry, Your Honor. My client has informed me of an issue that may affect your decision. Okay, let's listen, and it better be good. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Pearson indicated that there is a significant possibility that Mr. David Pearson is not the biological father of their daughter. If this is the case, then it can be argued that he has insufficient grounds to claim custody. Counselor, in Pennsylvania, this is completely irrelevant to custody claims, and you should know that. However, for the benefit of Mr. and Miss Pearson, do you have evidence of this, Mrs. Pearson? Not yet, Your Honor. Your Honor, her lawyer intervened. We propose a stay of proceedings pending the DNA test and its analysis. Dave turned around to see Ellie's knowing smile. His lawyer stood up to answer. Your Honor, anticipating Mrs. Pearson's tactics, we conducted DNA testing at an accredited laboratory. The results are certified and accompanied by a duly certified and notarized affidavit from the testing agency. He handed copies to the bailiff and Linda's lawyer, then continued. As you can see, the results clearly show that Mr. David Pearson and Miss Allegra Pearson, or Ellie as she is called, are father and daughter. Okay, Counselor Hall. This is interesting, and I'm sure a relief for both father and daughter. In any case, based on the laws of this state, the motion to delay and order DNA testing is denied. Linda began to cry as her lawyer tried to console her. Judge Lawson continued. So, as I said, although the mother usually has primary custody of the child, I believe that better for everyone the parties will accede to Miss Pearson's wishes and accept the petition presented by Mr. Pearson. Mrs. Pearson and Ellie, it pains me to see a mother and daughter become estranged from each other, and the way this process has destroyed what was a happy marriage touches me deeply. He paused and took a deep breath. The petition for divorce presented Mr. Pearson satisfied. Both will receive a final decision in 6 to 8 weeks. I wish you all the best on your journey forward. The trial is over. Ellie, she rushed to her father and hugged him with all her might. As they started to leave, Linda approached with fire in her eyes. Well, you win. I hope you're happy, she said sarcastically to Dave, expecting him to be triumphant. He turned and quietly replied, Who are you becoming, Linda? No one won today. This is a defeat for all three of us. Come home and we'll talk about the details in a few days. She collapsed on a courtroom bench as her lawyer tried to console her. She said quietly, But I love you. This is wrong. Dave heard her but decided to keep walking as he and Ellie held hands. In the following weeks, the consequences of the terrible decisions that Rich and Linda made began to get better. Rich pleaded guilty as part of a plea deal to avoid trial, fines, and a potentially long prison sentence. He was required to disclose all hidden bank accounts and safe deposit boxes and agreed to serve an 8-year sentence in federal prison. Linda found a reasonable job with a company about 25 miles away and bought a townhouse there with funds provided by Dave. It was the perfect solution for her. She was close enough to see Ellie, but far enough to avoid former friends who considered her presence unwelcome. This was the new beginning she needed. Dave turned his attention to restructuring his company. Debbie quickly became a star in the sales department, growing her customer base with many large orders from new clients. Moreover, she managed to retain almost all the clients that Dave expected to lose due to the bribery scandal. Tammy also became an ideal partner for Debbie in supporting the internal workings of the department. Dave knew that once his distribution business was fully operational, he would have to expand his sales team, and Debbie was the ideal candidate to lead the entire sales team. Dave showed little interest in female company, although friends and his loving daughter arranged dates for him. Single women from the church seemed to be lining up to meet the coveted soon-to-be bachelor. He missed Linda's company more than he expected, but he was in no hurry. In his weak moments, when he allowed himself to ponder the possibilities, there was only one woman on his mind. One morning a few months after the judge made his decision, Hannah walked into Dave's office with the morning mail. "Hey, boss, looks like your divorce papers have arrived." He opened the envelope to check the contents. "Yes, it looks like Judge Lawson was right. 7 weeks have passed. I guess I'm a free man now. How do you feel about this?" Dave thought about his emotions before answering her question. "It's a real mixture of feelings, I guess. Sadness and joy, relief and uncertainty. By mixing all my feelings together, I don't end up with one feeling. What I feel most is anticipation. What Linda and I had was special. Now that that's gone, I want to find the special again. You know what I mean?" "Yes, I understand," she said with a half smile, wondering if the time was right. She turned to the door, hesitated, then slowly closed it. Standing with her back to him, as if afraid to see his reaction, she quietly expressed what she had been keeping to herself. "Dave, I also need something special. I have to admit something that I was afraid to talk about. But here it is. I love you. I started loving you the day you asked me. You and Linda kept trying to get me dates, but I wanted something out of reach, or at least unavailable. You don't have to say anything now, but if you're interested, just ask me out when you're ready. I already know that my answer will be yes." She didn't notice how Dave quietly approached her from behind. As soon as she finished your confession, he kissed her. "Dinner tonight?" Remaining in his arms, she turned to see his glowing smile and the sparkle in his eyes. "I'm at home at 6, she suggested. "I will cook." Her face beamed with a wide smile. "And wear something casual." They exchanged their first kiss. Very casual. Very, very casual," she added. The bottle of wine and delicious lasagna disappeared, as if dinner was not a priority. Hannah whispered in his ear, "I want to be with you." Dave smiled and answered quietly, "I can think of a lot of excuses. With on, under, in, for. Hannah, it would be so easy to get this done. I am already sure of my feelings for you and want to beware of anything that could jeopardize our long and happy life. We have a wonderful friendship, but this will strengthen it and open new horizons for us. I don't want us to move at a snail's pace, but let's explore this exciting, new relationship before we try all these excuses, okay?" "I'm so sorry, Dave. I kept telling myself not to rush you after what you've been through, so you set the pace. There is nothing to regret. Honestly, I wish we were up there right now, but I have to be a little careful. Thanks for understanding." Dave and Hannah were together every evening for the next 2 weeks. After a romantic dinner at Hannah's house, they sat down together and gave free rein to their passions. Dave was sure of what he wanted and the time was right. "Hannah, all my hesitation is gone. I'm ready to give vent to my feelings. In recent weeks, I found the spark and chemistry that I knew we would share. I feel like my heart has been freed from its chains, and I can say I love you with every fiber of my being. If you want it, I don't want it to ever end. You have me, and I have you. If you are absolutely sure that this is not a rebound for you, then I want this connection to never end. I think our friends will tell us to hurry up given everything that's happened lately, but I don't care what they think. This may seem fast to you, she said. For me, it was something I had to live with for 7 years. Well, I know we were both worried about the rebound, but it feels right. Besides, Ellie has been trying to convince me to nail you for months now. You definitely got me, Buster, she mimicked. Boy, have you ever nailed me? Dave laughed so much. I don't think Ellie meant it, although perhaps that's what she meant. Damn, she's growing up fast. I think she's a pretty smart young woman with good instincts, Hannah added. Won't she mind if you stay for breakfast? Now that I think about it, she told me not to worry about breakfast. I still don't understand her meaning. That little stinker. I'll text her anyway. Dreams of new love and a bright future together danced in their heads. Joy filled the house of Hannah, Dave, and Ellie. 6 months after their first date, they got married in their church. True to their nature, the casual and informal reception was reminiscent of a barbecue in a spacious backyard. With 200 guests, the pool and other activities gave the kids something to do. There was a large party tent with a dance floor and a bar for adults. Music was provided by a small group. There was something to celebrate. As expected, some family members and friends expressed surprise at how quickly they decided to get married, especially since Hannah was 8 years younger than Dave. The explanation was simple. They quickly realized that they had found the right partner. And besides, Hannah was 3 months pregnant, and, being at a fairly young age, she and Dave planned to have many more children. As the party came to an end, a familiar face walked into the backyard. "Oh, look," Hannah said to Dave. "Linda is here. Let me go and greet her." Both women were not entirely sure how the visit would end. Hannah's worries quickly dissipated when Linda smiled and hugged her friend. "Congratulations, Hannah. Looks like an amazing celebration." "Well, you know Dave and his pork skewers. How are you doing? You look beautiful." "I'm still working on myself, but I'm in a much better place than I was 7 or 8 months ago. Look, I want you to know that I think it's great that you and Dave found each other. Please believe this. I wish you nothing but the best. You are 2 of my favorite people." Dave joined them and surprised Linda with a warm hug. "Hi, Linda. I'm so glad you came, but I was hoping you'd come a little earlier. I thought about it, but I didn't want to be the annoying ex who gets the attention of you two. As I told your beautiful new wife, I'm so happy for you both." "Thank you. I appreciate it. So, are you ready for Ellie to spend 3 weeks with you while we honeymoon?" "I'm looking forward to it. I hope she's not too afraid of it." "Don't tell her what I said, but she's looking forward to being with you while we're gone. I think she feels pretty guilty about some of the things she's done and said, but I told her that strong emotions needed to be released. If she was going to move past them, you'll both be fine. So, are you going to meet my emotional support animal?" "What? You still have your banjo, right?" "Certainly. He'll be with Ellie when she stays with you." "Then what is an emotional support animal?" "Oh, it's a pig. Of course, she was roasted, but she really gives me positive emotions. Come and take the plate." Any threat of tension disappeared when Hannah and Linda laughed, threatening to throw Dave into the pool. No 2 divorces or separations are alike. People don't react in a single way when bad things happen. When he found out about Linda's infidelity, Dave couldn't imagine that he would ever find joy in life again. Ellie mourned the breakup of her loving family. At the same time, Hannah felt that she was doomed to either live without love or be content with something less than she wanted. They were all broken. But in the end, Dave, Hannah and Ellie found more joy than before everything fell apart. With all their hearts, they wished the same for Linda and Sonia. Time will show. 10 years later, the pastor asked the congregation, "Who is marrying this woman off?" Dave said clearly and confidently, "Her mom's and me." He then took Ellie's hand and gave it to her fiancé, Nathan Lawson, the grandson of Judge Stanley Lawson. Dave turned and took his place next to Hannah, who was shedding happy wedding tears. Linda and her fiancé sat next to them. Hannah and Linda became good friends again, while Dave kept his distance from his ex-wife. At least he no longer felt the need to isolate himself from Linda. His love for Hannah and their 3 children more than healed the anger and pain. Hannah whispered to him as he sat, "Moms, plural, nice move, Mr. Pearson." Looking back at the wedding party, he smiled proudly at his 10-year-old daughter Sarah, who was her sister's maid of honor. His youngest daughter, Jenna, was the flower girl, and Dave Jr., now 3, was the ring bearer. True to his contemplative nature, he bathed in the radiance of a heart filled with love and pride. A prayer of thanks flowed from his soul. Ellie graduated from Temple University Law School at the top of her class. There she met and fell in love with Nate. While they were dating, her father and Judge Lawson became close friends, so bringing the families together couldn't have been better. Nate focused on criminal law and joined Bill Hardwick's office, while Ellie chose family law and became a new member of Angela Hall's team. The changes Dave made to his business exceeded his expectations. He is now 48 years old, and Dave and Hannah planned to retire when he turned 55. He was by no means a billionaire, but his portfolio and excellent financial planner made that goal easy to achieve. Sonia married an amazing guy who managed the Eastern Territory of a large pumping company that Dave's business represented. In addition to the 2 boys Sonia and Rich had, the couple now had a little girl who had just turned 4. Dave's parents were already retired and in good health when they began the transition to leisure activities. This included handing over Sunday family dinners to Dave and Hannah. On a Sunday, about 3 months after Ellie's wedding, Dave's father pulled him aside after eating. "Son, I know I made a promise to you, but this time I will break it. Rich is leaving next week, and he wanted to see you and the family before he leaves. Can he come this afternoon? I've actually been thinking about contacting him since he came out. I heard he joined the missionary team or something." "Yes. They support poor villages with projects such as building schools and so on. He is going to Tanzania and will be a water purification specialist on the team." "How did he contact them while in prison?" "He believes that his cellmate really changed his life. He became close to the prison ministry team and asked them to help him find a ministry he could join when he was released. After they found out his skills and experience, they put it all in motion. He studied Swahili and, as far as I understand, spoke fluently. He was also allowed to take many required courses while he served his time, so he was ready to start working right away when he got out of prison. Months since his release, completing his training and collecting monthly support. He may come, but Sonia and her family may not react well. He's already been to them several times. Everything is all right with them." "God, Sonia never told me." "Are you blaming her? You made it clear that you want nothing to do with him." "Yes, I think you're right." "So how do you feel about your brother at this moment?" "Everything he did seemed to be aimed directly at me, Dad. Maybe that wasn't his intention, but it seemed that way to me. When everything fell apart, I remember thinking that it would have been kinder of him to just put a bullet in me. He attacked almost everything that was important to me. If it weren't for Ellie, I don't know what I would have done." "Yeah, you two did a good job keeping each other together." "Yes, glory to God." "Son, you mentioned that I felt like Rich was targeting you. I don't think that was his main motivation, but on a subconscious level, I think you might be right. That day he was apologizing, and I think he was sincere, but then he said something that really hit me. He said that he never felt part of our family and that you were always the perfect son that he could never change. Your mom and I were racking our brains trying to figure out why he felt this way. Guys, you never made an example of me or showed favoritism. I don't understand. He admitted it. He said it was all in him. He knew that you were a better student and had talents that he didn't have, so he made conclusions that weren't true. Now he knows it. I think I owe it to him and you to sit down with you and clear things up. Thank you, son. I knew you would take it that way. Dad, you know that I tend to spend a lot of time thinking about things, like during your half-hour morning visits to the toilet. Okay, smart guy, Dave retorted as they laughed together. As I said, a few nights ago I was sitting alone on the back porch while Hannah put the kids to bed. The air was cool and the smells of the flower garden put me in a great mood. As I watched the last of the sun set behind the trees, I felt an overwhelming joy and peace as I thought about how everything had turned out after the chaos of 10 years ago. Sonia remarried a good man, and she is very happy. She has done a great job with her sons, and her new husband has been a tremendous influence on her. The money Rich stole has been returned. I thought he had destroyed my client base in the process, but instead I found some real stars to take his place. It also forced me to restructure my business, which was a major improvement for growth and my bottom line. The distribution restructuring also put Sonia's new husband in the spotlight. So what do you mean? Dad, I never thought this could happen, but it turns out that what Rich did was a huge blessing. His father noticed that he had not mentioned something important. But your marriage was ruined, son. Linda and you were the perfect couple. Don't you think this was a tragic end to a beautiful love story? Of course, Dad. But look at Hannah. I love her madly. I like everything about her. I wouldn't give it up, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, including what Linda and I had. Do you love her more than Linda? More? How can I measure this without filtering my feelings through all the crap that happened? I still have feelings for Linda, of course, but I will never feel the same way I did 15 years ago. The important thing is that I have feelings for Hannah that are at least as strong as I have for Linda, but I choose to give myself and all my love to Hannah. That's good to hear, but you still haven't answered my question. About Rich? Yes. How do you feel about him? Everything I said about how things turned out affects how I feel about Rich. I hate what he did, but the way things turned out, I also have reason to be grateful. He paid with more than 8 years of his life, so I didn't really have any anger or desire for revenge left. This is a bit like how I feel about Linda. Of course, he is my brother. If he needed a kidney or something like that, I would agree. But I will never be able to trust him or care for him the way I did 15 years ago. I think I understand, son. I must say, your view of everything that happened is touching. I'm not sure I would have the courage to find the positives the way you do. Well, think about all the people involved. Sonia is in a better position. My business is thriving. My marriage to Hannah and my 3 children with her are a joy beyond anything I deserve. Even Rich has grown and returned to his faith through his prison experience. He finds the best version of himself. Unfortunately, Linda is probably the only one who didn't end up in the best situation. Ellie tells me that she is happy, but still dreams of our life, to be together. Son, you're a fucking Pollyanna, you know that? This is bad. No, but I can't forget how broken you were. Yes, I was. But during one of my reflection sessions, I realized that what Rich did was like he took my precious china and smashed it on the floor. God, in his mercy, helped me put it together and form the pieces into a new mosaic, even more beautiful and valuable. So, what you're saying is that what was broken is now better than ever. Exactly. But it's not just better, Dad. Everything is much better for me. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.